Alright, so I finally seen it. They cloned Tyrone. Let's get to it. So we start off in this hood called the Glen. They got this dude by the name of Fontaine. This little boy named Junebug to go see what's up with him, whatever like that. And he basically tells him one of Isaac's boys is out here selling on the corner or whatever like that, the wrong corner. So he comes back over and he runs him over with his car, messes up his leg. Just to send a message and shit, right? Obviously the dude's gonna call Isaac, you know what I'm saying? He goes back to the house, talks to his mom, see if she wants anything, whatever like that. But we never see his mom. She's like hidden in the door. And he's got this picture up with this dude named Ronnie. Apparently Ronnie's his brother and he got killed. I'll tell you why later. So one of his boys comes through, he basically like collected money or whatever like that. He's got this pizza box, but the pizza box got money in it. That's a little bit short because he's missing money from this dude by the name of Slick Charles. They couldn't find him in his regular spot, so basically they gotta go looking for him. Now Slick Charles used to be a pimp back in like the 1995 and whatnot. So basically they go talking to a couple of hoes to try to figure out what Charles is. They find he's at some motel called the Royal. Fontaine goes in there solo dolo. This chick by the name of YoYo tells him what room he's in. So Fontaine goes busting in there, gets a little bit of money that he has or whatever, then dips out. The thing he didn't realize at the time was Isaac and the dude was following the car. They pretty much backed up behind his car. Fontaine knew what time it was, you know what I'm saying? He gets out the car, gets shot up, and they done deal his ass. Slick Charles comes out there later, sees the whole thing. Next thing we know, we see Fontaine waking up again. So you thinking to yourself, is this some type of flashback thing? He went to the store to get some scratch off just like he did earlier, but this time, as he's talking to the old man in front of the store, his name is Frog, he sees somebody walking down the street crippled or whatever like that, but then all of a sudden this van comes and takes this dude and just dips off. I'm like, what the fuck? So he ends up going to the house, asking his mom, is he good or whatever like that, and then he goes into the kitchen, and we see the pizza box there. We're like, the fuck? So he goes to the spot to find Slick Charles again. Slick Charles is like, the fuck are you doing here, nigga? You supposed to be dead. So now we're thinking to ourselves, how the fuck is Fontaine still alive? Basically, like anybody would, Fontaine won't believe any of this shit. So Slick Charles is like, yo, we go talk to YoYo. Now, apparently around that time, YoYo had spun the block, and then she saw this nigga was dead too. We're like, what the fuck? So once again, how is Fontaine still alive? So basically, YoYo and I think Slick Charles, remember the car that shot him up, whatever like that. So they're going to go try to find his car, but instead they end up finding his van. And Fontaine remembers it's the van that he saw when he was at the store where the guy got picked up in. They go into this house, they don't see nothing, all of a sudden they go through this door. It's like a room with surveillance or whatever like that. Now Slick Charles thinking like it's some random ass trap shit. Until they end up finding the elevator. You're like, what the fuck this elevator goes to? Elevator goes downstairs, see all this type of lab equipment, see this white guy with an afro. And they're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Fontaine trying to get answers, but he ain't getting none. Then Slick sees this substance on the table or whatever like that. He thinks some cocaine, but trust me, it ain't that. So he gets some of it, then Slick goes over there and talks to the white guy with the afro. While he's talking to him, he's like snickering and laughing and shit. So we're like, was he got a nervous twitch or something? Before they get answers, YoYo drops something to startle Slick and he accidentally shoots the guy. He's done deal dead as shit. So at this point, they're like, nah, we gotta get the fuck out of here. But then Fontaine notices something. He ends up seeing a body bag. When he opens the body bag, it's him. Fontaine sees himself in the body bag. Or we're like, clones. Thinking to himself, what the heck is going on around here? So next day, Fontaine goes with his boys, you know what I'm saying? He wants to check out this house to try to prove it to them. But the thing is, there's no elevator there. There's no nothing. So at this point, Fontaine think he's tripping. But blah, is Slick Charles and YoYo was like, yeah, you ain't tripping. We saw that shit too, but we gotta get some food. So they go over to this little chicken spot, right? While they eat the chicken, going over plans, they all start snickering and laughing, and they all just laughing and stuff. Even Fontaine's laughing. Now, Slick Charles is thinking to himself, like, I've never seen you smile ever. He starts seeing everybody at the restaurant laughing, and Slick puts two and two together. He's like, hey, stop eating that chicken. So he thinks the powdery stuff that had him laughing in the lab or whatever like that, he thinks the shit is in the chicken. And who runs this restaurant? A random white guy with an afro. So YoYo's gonna use her power of persuasion to do some things with this little afro guy. But it turns out she's just trying to get some information real quick. She finds a tape recorder and talk about the substance. Then she notices the security cameras. The funny thing about this is, the camera footage is not just for that building. The camera footage is for a bunch of different buildings in the area. You're thinking to yourself, why they need security cameras for all these other buildings if it's just for, this little chicken spot? So they end up getting out of there, but the thing is, they see this van again, and they see, like, these white people just coming in, putting like hair care products and stuff like that. So YoYo goes to the spot, right? She goes in there Fontaine to get answers. Meanwhile, Slick Charles is going to go inside of the van and figure out what the heck is they hiding in there. Slick ends up finding a key card. There's like boxes of hair care products and like grape drink. So I'm like, the heck are they doing with all this? So while YoYo and Fontaine are in the hair salon, all of a sudden Isaac and his boys coming out of nowhere. He's tripping off the fact, trying to figure out how the heck Fontaine is still alive. And yeah, it was what we were wondering too, right? They end up getting out of there, but the thing is, Slick Charles was stuck inside the van. They end up pulling out too, so they got to follow the van. They follow the van, get Slick Charles out of there. He gets him the key card. Then they end up going to the store talking to the old man Frog, right? Because for some reason, Fontaine thinks he's wise beyond his years or whatever like that. So basically, they get some information out of him, and then they find out, like, yeah, we should go to a church, but which one? Mount Zion, right? Okay. They go to the church, and everything seems normal, but Slick Charles thinks something's off. Then they look towards the communion plate and you see this bottle of grape drink that's empty. We're like, So at night they go into church, they're trying to figure out something or whatever like that. Then they see this light on the communion plate or table or whatever. He uses the key card on it, it turns green, and guess what it opens up? Another elevator. They go in the elevator, they get through it, it's like a whole subterranean level, like some underground, like white people just like looking up shit. You're like, all right. This is when they discover they've been putting that powdery stuff in everything. You know what I'm saying? The chicken, the grape drink, the hair supply products, like anything they can get their hands on, any types of food. But now you're thinking to yourself, why are they doing this? Then they see some people trapped in these like mental institution type rooms, and they basically getting them to do what they want. So you're like, wait a minute. Then they get some hazmat suits and sneak around the property or whatever. Then they get into this room that's purple or whatever like that, and it's like a bunch of different pods. And inside these pods are a bunch of clones. I'm like, what the fuck? Fantoine and Slick Charles see clones of themselves. The thing is, YoYo didn't find a clone of herself. You're thinking to yourself, why? They end up going back in the elevator, but they end up in a strip club, right? So you got this one white guy that's DJing, and he's thinking to himself, okay, these are the people that try to escape or whatever like that. But they don't know that. So they get in the car and dip out, whatever like that. But then all these people are chasing after them. They go, what the fuck? So then they're trying to drive off, and then the car messes up, and then they stop. A bunch of people in the club is chasing after them, whatever that they're trying to get in the car. Then all of a sudden they just stop out of nowhere. So after they stop, our 3 Live crew gets out of the car, and all of a sudden this limo pulls up. Some dude by the name of Chester gets out of the car who looks very similar to Fantoine. And then this white guy gets out of the car. They never gave him a name. We just call him The Man. So basically he talks about, yeah, I'm a boss, but I work for other bosses. And what they're doing in the hoods is like some type of like mind control. But they're doing this to control the hoods because they don't want people dying anymore. They have this like quota obsession to keep the peace and whatnot. But I'm like, you're cloning people. So they're basically trying to stop this white guy, and all of a sudden, the white guy sets some code called Olympic Zero, and then all of a sudden, he's able to control Fantoine and Slick Charles. He almost made him shoot himself, but the thing is like, why is it not controlling YoYo? Now here's the reason. The white guy said he only clones specific people. So he ends up letting them go because they can't do nothing about it, and bottom line is, they end up going back to like regular life, I guess. But YoYo later on tries to convince Fantoine, we gotta do something about this, we gotta get this popping. But Fontaine's basically giving up because he's thinking to himself it's nothing they can really do, and they pretty much have control on whatever like that. So he's kind of like messed up in the head. So YoYo said, fuck this shit, I would do this by myself then. Fontaine's going through the motions, he goes back to the store, you know, so he talks to Frog. He's knocking on his mom's door like, hey, you need to eat some sandwiches. And he's just frustrated, he just wants to talk to his mom. Then all of a sudden he breaks down the door. We find out that his mom is not even in there, it's just a recording. So then you think to yourself, did his mom die? And just breaks down in tears, starts crying. Then we find out what happened to his brother, Ronnie. Apparently he got shot by some cops. He was trying to get some candy from the store or whatever like that. And they ended up shooting him anyway. And he was like laying there for like 15 minutes and he just died. Yeah, he's had a lot of trauma. So it gets to a point Junebug comes over there and then Junebug cheers him up a little bit. So we see YoYo in the disguise or whatever like that. She's got this letter or whatever like that. She's trying to put in the mailbox, right? While she's walking away, this van picks her up. You know what I'm saying? She gets captured. So Fantoine ends up going to go see Slick Charles or whatever like that. He talks about, he's like, you seen YoYo? He's like, I ain't seen her in a while. So they end up talking to one of the hoes that's seen YoYo, whatever like that, and they end up finding out that she got captured. So they're trying to figure out what to do, right? So Slick Charles about to come up with this plan, but bottom line is he's like, man, you ain't gonna like it. So Fantoine has a one-on-one conversation with Issac. I'm like, how the heck is this happening? He talks about every scene through the underground and everything like that. And Isaac's looking like he's fucking retarded. You're like, what is this? But he says he needs Issac helping his army, you know what I'm saying, to go down and fight these dudes or whatever like that in the underground. Issac says, fuck that, shoots this nigga in the shoulder. He's like, damn. I'm like, oh, is he dead? So after they discard him, almost immediately a black van comes and picks him up. So he's basically in the underground, they fix him up, and then while, you know, everybody that dipped out, he gets up out of the body bag. Then all of a sudden we see Fantoine again or whatever like that. Fontaine's talking to one of these hoes or whatever like that, trying to get back in the car, but then Slick Charles is right behind him in the car and he makes him pass out with some ether. He pretty much ties him up at a hotel and leaves him there, right? Now here's the plan. Turns out the one he got in the hotel, that's a clone Fantoine. The other Fantoine is in the lab. He's gonna find a way to get to the control room. Now Slick Charles' plan was supposed to get him to talk to Issac, but have him play dead. So the way Fantoine was able to get the one-on-one with Issac anyway, they had hoes talk to Issac saying Fantoine was gonna give him like, you know, $5,000 or something like that. The thing was, Fantoine gave it to one of his boys to give to Issac. And he wanted Issac to shoot him in his shoulder anyway, you know what I'm saying? So it could look like he killed him. So Issac really doesn't believe this story yet, but he's willing to get that money, so it is what it is. Now, I don't know how Slick Charles got the whole goddamn hood, but he got them all together to go to this convenience store and meets up with one of the white guys that's running it with the afro. They get to an elevator that's stationed there. Fantoine down there, he gets to the control room, you know what I'm saying, to access everything. They get to the elevators, and then they start causing mayhem. Meanwhile, they probably put this afro stuff in YoYo's head or whatever like that. So you're like, oh shit, she about to be infected. But it turns out she wasn't. She broke free and whipped the doctor's ass. Turns out she had a wig on the whole time. No affecting. The hood comes down there, they beating up niggas, they free all the clones and stuff. It comes out to Fantoine versus Chester, but he ends up getting beat up and dragged into his room. Meanwhile, Slick Charles and YoYo in the cloning room, but all of a sudden, they get confronted by the man. They end up tricking the man, getting him done deal dirty shit. Now, while Fontaine's hurt bad sitting in his chair, we look at this other guy in the room, and it's an older version of Fontaine. Turns out he's actually the real Fontaine, and the Fontaine that got hurt is actually a clone. Turns out the real Fontaine has been behind the scenes making all these daddy-own clones. So his reasoning behind it is to try to make a new world, something like that, but really, it's because of his brother Ronnie dying. So he feels like if we could control people, we would have safer neighborhoods and things of that nature. But bottom line is, they're not even real people no more. You just got a bunch of clones. So after all this, the clone Fontaine says Olympic 0, and the real Fontaine's looking at him like, yeah, I'm not a clone. But Chester is. So he uses Chester to shoot the real Fontaine, done deal dirty shit. Everybody's free, hooray. Now YoYo had this plan to go to Memphis all along. Now Slick Charles is with it too, and now Fontaine's with it also. So you're probably thinking to yourself, why they call it they clone Tyrone? Well, here you go. We go to Los Angeles, and it looks like Fontaine is waking up there. So I'm like, did he go to Los Angeles? He's got cornrows, he's walking down the street, just doing, typical stuff, chilling with his boys, and all of a sudden he's looking at the TV. And they've got the news out of clones being all over the place and whatnot. And then he sees himself on TV. Turns out the Fontaine that he saw was the one that Slick Charles had locked up in the motel. Turns out the LA guy, his name is not Fontaine, his name is Tyrone. So there you go. So apparently these cloning stations are not just in the Glen, they're like all over the place or whatever. But the Glen just happened to expose it, and now it's going to be a worldwide mission to try to find all this stuff that's going on with governments and cloning and things of that nature. And that's how the movie ends. Well, it actually ends with Erykah Badu's version of Tyrone, but yeah, like they pretty much play that song during the credits. I'm like, yo, what the heck did I just watch? But yeah, that was something. They cloned Tyrone on Netflix. Check it out.